Since April, I have been reaching out to CBE's members on their birthdays. Once in a while, I call someone and say, "Happy birthday, it's Rabbi Epstein." But due to some typo in the database, it's not actually their birthday. That's a fun one. But by and large, I have found reaching out to you on your birthdays very meaningful. Because who doesn't need some extra love on their birthday, especially during a pandemic? The celebrating has been so different this year. Many of us recall special birthday traditions that were not possible: a fishing trip with friends, a big family party, and my own personal birthday tradition, dining in a nice restaurant for lunch all by myself, inside the restaurant. Birthdays these days bring up a huge question: when will we return to how things were? This sense of waiting to go back to the before times extends to just about everything. Things that we had taken for granted have been taken from us. We long to go to school and have it be somewhat predictable. We wait simply to feel like we can ride in the subway or hug a friend without risking infection. Author Krista Diamond recently mourned her continued loss of taste and smell from COVID-19. She wrote, "Each day, I hope for the familiar aromas and flavors to come back. I wait, like the rest of us, for the things I love to return." And too many of us have experienced the ultimate loss this year, the loss of a loved one, either to the disease itself or to another cause, with even the way we mourn fundamentally altered by our restrictions. And now these holidays, these containers in time which hold our whole year, become the focal point for how much we have all lost. One of you recently told me, "In 63 years, I have never missed going to Kol Nidre in the synagogue." And a couple of weeks ago, Barak and I were saying to each other, on Passover, celebrating the Seder on Zoom had a novelty. But now it is the high holidays. It has been 6 months. Zoom is not the way we should be celebrating. We asked each other that same question, the question with no answer: when will we return? Because how strange it is that it is not even Yom Kippur when I am actually speaking these words to you. I picture you here as you usually are. In the front row, Rabbi Emeritus Rabbi Weider and Rosalie on my right, Senator Schumer and Iris on my left, Reverend Dr. Daniel Meter from Old First Reformed Church in the middle, a few rows back. I remember where many of you usually are too. Most years we are without air conditioning. Last year we had air conditioning, remember? Every year, on this serious and sacred day, we have sought renewal packed together within these four walls. But this year, nothing is as it should be. The seats in my now are empty, except for the equipment and belongings of the production crew. I miss you today. I mourn us being together. This Yom Kippur, there is one prayer that I wish we could cry out together in our sanctuary, together with our sadness, anger, fear, and grief over all we have lost and all we wish we could go back to. Hashivenu Adonai v'nashuva. Return us, O God, and we will return. Chadesh yamenu kekedem. Renew our days as of old. Hashivenu is an old prayer. It is from the Book of Lamentations, which mourns our first collective historical trauma, the destruction of the first temple in 586 BCE. It makes sense that following a trauma, we would pray for the past to be restored. Our rabbis knew that life is full of loss, both great and small, and we are often in need of renewal. And so we repeat Hashivenu every Shabbat during the Torah service, and it features prominently during our New Year season in the prayer Shema Kolenu, God, hear our voice. And this year in particular, it carries a special weight. But how might that prayer for return be answered? What does it mean to say, Chadesh Yamenu Kekedem, renew our days as of old? Hebrew is a fascinating language built on roots. From one root can come variations on the same theme. Sometimes contradictory meanings can derive from the same root. Kedem comes from one such root, kuf daled mem. The root for kedem gives rise to words like old, ancient, past, and before. Kedem certainly connotes the good old days, or even the before times. But according to the Torah, Kedem is also the location of the Garden of Eden, the place from which the first human beings arose from the earth. An old place, yes, but also a place of new possibilities. Kedem also means east, the direction from which the sun rises and begins again its path for the new day. And Kedem also gives rise to the word kadima, literally eastward. Sung in Israel's national anthem, for the early Zionists, kadima meant onward to the land of Israel. But it has become over the years in modern Hebrew simply go forward. So Kedem is the old new place, the ancient place from which we begin the future. When we say Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem, we cry out, help us to arrive again at a place of new possibilities. Help us to go forward with the strength we have when we start a new journey. In response to another major collective historical trauma, the destruction of the Second Temple in the year 70, we find a fascinating story in the Talmud, Tractate Bava Batra. The story goes, when the temple was destroyed a second time, there was an increase in the number of ascetics who chose not to eat meat nor drink wine. Rabbi Yehoshua asked them, my children, why? They said to him, meat was sacrificed on the altar. How can we eat meat now that the altar doesn't exist? And wine was poured as a libation on the altar. Now that the altar doesn't exist, how can we drink it? Rabbi Yehoshua replied, so too then, we should not eat bread or produce or drink water, because all of these were offered upon the altar as well. And the ascetics were silent, because they realized that while they might be able to survive without meat, wine, bread, or produce, they couldn't survive without water. Rabbi Yehoshua said to them, my children, to not mourn at all is impossible, but to mourn excessively as you are doing is also impossible. Rabbi Yehoshua continued with some advice. You may improve your house, you may eat a full meal, you may make yourself beautiful, and you should do all of these things. They bring you joy. But one piece of whatever you are making or doing must be left missing. Why? To remember the destruction of the temple. And the reason for these practices comes from the psalmist. If I forget you, Jerusalem, let my right hand forget its cunning. Let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth if I remember you not, if I do not set Jerusalem above my highest joy. Rabbi Mark Baker taught recently that when we say that we set Jerusalem above our highest joy, we are saying that we give the loss of Jerusalem and our loss a special place even as we continue on with our joys. Our loss goes literally al rosh simchati, on the head of our joy, like a beautiful crown. Rabbi Yehoshua taught the ascetics and teaches us today. We don't have to choose between loss and joy. We don't have to choose between the past and the future. We don't have to choose between memory and forgetting. Instead, we begin to rebuild, and we leave a little bit undone as we do it. Our joy becomes more complete, not because we've left our loss, our past, and our memories behind, but because we wear them like a crown with significance and with honor for what we've been through. In my imagination, our story's ascetics, under the guidance of Rabbi Yehoshua, went on to build the synagogue in the place of the temple, finding joy there, a joy made more complete because inside they remembered Jerusalem. They emerged from their mourning by creating the institution that has sustained Jewish life for centuries. Dare we ask, not when will we return, but how will we rebuild? I wrote to CBE member Sasha Weiss the other day to wish her son Lev a very happy 4th birthday. I asked her to please send me an update if she had a chance. With her permission, I share parts of her reply. It was a lively and fun birthday. We were able to celebrate with both sets of Lev's grandparents. And it's been amazing to watch Lev's growth during this time. Lev has developed a deep obsession with Tom Petty and has transformed into a small rock star. It's very funny and interesting to observe. Honestly, it has in many ways been a joyful time for us, despite all the anxieties about COVID and the upheaval in the world. I have loved this time of slowness and togetherness. I'm excited for Lev to start school again, though I'm sensing some anxiety on his part. I told him that the doctors and scientists in New York said it was okay for children to be in school, and that there would be a lot of hand washing and mask wearing. I didn't say, of course, that he was correctly sensing that there are many unknowns. It was heartbreaking to know that he knows that we have to function through such uncertainty. And there you have it, the strange brew of joy, terror, and hope during this bizarre moment. It will be nice to be back in the embrace of the ECC community. And the ECC is our early childhood center here at CBE. Hashivenu Adonai v'nashuva, return us, O God, and we will return. Even our ancient rabbis, though, questioned the utility of praying for a simple return. In Midrash Eicha Rabbah, a collection of rabbinic teachings on the Book of Lamentations, we read the Hashivenu prayer as a conversation between us and God. In this conversation, we, the Jewish people, say, return us, Adonai, to you, and we will return. Master of the universe, it is upon you to return us. But God replies, no, it is upon you. You, the Jewish people, must return to me, and then I will return to you. As Rabbi Yafa Epstein recently taught, this ancient conversation rings true today. We wish that someone or something could return us, but the Midrash teaches it is upon us to return. I believe that we already know what to do. Chadesh Yameinu kekedem. We will take the old and make it new. Our people have done it before, and we have started to do it already. We return to the ritual of the birthday, and we are more grateful than ever if all 4 grandparents were able to be there, even if we didn't celebrate inside a fancy restaurant. We return to our classrooms, perhaps in fits and starts, but more aware than ever before of the sanctity of the lives of our children and our teachers. We watch our children grow, and may we hold on for dear life to that slowness and togetherness. We returned 10 days ago to hear the shofar, and the plexiglass told of our persistence. I think our ancestors would have found that to be remarkable. We find the courage to celebrate, to mourn, to carry our traditions forward. We gather in tiny physical groups, but with a multitude of squares of loved ones from all over the world. And so, B'nai Mitzvah are celebrated, babies are named, couples are wed, and our dead are buried. Without us there, perhaps, but with all of the love and honor that they deserve. And today, these 4 walls are holding something that they've never held before. What will they hold next? Together, you and I will create it. Maybe you and I will create new containers for our tradition. And so, happy birthday, sweet Lev, who just turned 4. When we tell you stories later about your 4th birthday and about the high holidays that year, we'll tell you about our fears and all of the hard things that we went through. But we'll also tell you how we went forward, kadima, and with crowns on our heads, created a future with the sun's path as our guide. Good Yom Tov.